2026 at 7 o'clock, Mount Bethel Fire Company, 2341 North Delaware Drive, Mount Bethel, PA. I'm going to call to order. If we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 3, proposed ordinance number 2026-01, providing the regulation of the digital infrastructure facilities, hyper-digital infrastructure facilities, and digital infrastructure accessory uses, providing definitions, conditional use requirements, and performance standards and related regulations. At this time, I'd like to turn over the floor to our solicitor, Mr. Mark Fisher, Attorney at Law.
All right, good evening, everyone. We'll get it corrected, don't worry. I also talk very loud, so that's not a problem. So this is a public hearing regarding proposed ordinance 26-01, which is entitled An Ordinance of the Township of Lower Mount Bethel, Northampton County, Pennsylvania, amending Chapter 27 zoning of the Code of Lower Mount Bethel, providing for the regulation of digital infrastructure facilities, hyper-digital infrastructure facilities, and digital infrastructure accessory uses, providing definitions, conditional use requirements, and performance standards and related regulations. As solicitor for the township, I will note for the record that the proposed ordinance was lawfully advertised in the Morning Call on both August 3 and August 10 of this year. Additionally, a notice was sent to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission in excess of 30 days prior to tonight's hearing. The Lehigh Valley Planning Commission has submitted a comment letter dated August 14, 2026, and we will incorporate that letter into the record tonight. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to give you, the public, an opportunity to comment regarding the proposed ordinance. This is your opportunity to speak on the subject, so the board will not be engaging back and forth in a discussion with you. It's your opportunity to speak so they can listen to you. I would suggest, because of the large number of people here, including those who have signed up, that it would be helpful that if you keep your comments to the issue at hand tonight. The issue at hand tonight is whether or not the township should or should not adopt the proposed ordinance. And if it should adopt the proposed ordinance, should it adopt it in its current form or should it be revised? That's the sole issue tonight. Some of you may have read that there was a recent filing with the township concerning a requested rezoning of certain properties. That is not before the township tonight. That will come before the board eventually in a public hearing where I suspect that many of you, if not all of you, will gather again. But that's not the issue tonight. It's limited to really, should the township or should the township not adopt an ordinance, and if so, should it be revised? There is no formal application for a land development as we speak that has been submitted to the township. And secondly, and importantly, the Township Board of Supervisors will not be making any final decision tonight. The board has scheduled a possible adoption of the proposed ordinance for September 14, for their September 14 meeting. Now, In order to have a productive and cooperative hearing tonight, I want to remind everybody of the rules we're going to follow. Number one, the township has a 3-minute limit for public comment. There are a lot of people that signed up. So to make sure that everybody who signed up has the opportunity to speak if they wish, we will adhere to that 3-minute limit. You will get notified of a 30 seconds coming up on your 3 minutes, and we ask you to be respectful and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Secondly, there are a lot of people here tonight, so we ask for your patience and for everybody who is speaking so that they can be heard, whether you're in favor of their comments or not in favor of their comments. Also, if you feel that somebody has already expressed what you were going to say tonight and you no longer wish to give your public comment, that's fine too. What we'll ask everybody to do is to approach the podium, indicate their name, and then your 3 minutes will start once you speak. At the last township meeting, the Board of Supervisors did indicate that they would receive written comments, and there were 2 that were received prior to tonight, and I will read them into the record. The first was dated August 3, 2026, and it reads as follows. My name is Marge Holmes, have lived in Lower Mount Bethel Township for the past 45 years, requesting that you vote on the proposed data center ordinance endorsed by you by the Planning Commission after input of the solicitor as well as the township engineer. There will be many who want to tweak details that could drag this proposed ordinance on and on. It is imperative that we get this proposed ordinance adopted as soon as possible to protect the residents of our township. Amendments to the proposed ordinance can take place as needed, but the proposed ordinance will allow us much more control over the requirements that a future data center ordinance must meet in order to place and maintain a data center in the industrial zoning of our township. This important vote for the proposed data center ordinance will be key in maintaining life as we know it in our rural township. Thank you for the time you give to the community as a Board of Supervisor. The township also received a written communication from Marie Perkowski, Perkowski, which reads as follows. I am writing to place Lower Mount Bethel Township on formal notice regarding the proposed Talon Energy Data Center expansion and your upcoming zoning amendments. As the owner of 1077 Washington Boulevard, my property sits squarely inside the impact zone of your industrial corridors. Please note that I've already filed a formal Pennsylvania right to know law request with Washington Township to lock down all regional aquifer data and environmental reviews concerning data center operations in our area. Underground water tables do not care about township borders. The fractured limestone and rock aquifers underneath the slate belt connect us all. The massive water consumption required to cool these hyperscale facilities threaten to heavily deplete our shared water table and destroy the water pressure of private residential wells uphill here in Washington Township. How this expansion directly threatens my water supply. 1, the 6-mile radius and the cone of depression. The proposed data center expansion sits within a 6-mile radius of my home. Industrial wells pumping massive daily volumes for server cooling create a cone of depression. In our local rock layers, this suction creates a massive underground drawdown that pulls the water table lower for miles around, threatening to dry out residential wells. 2, interconnected fractured bedrock. Our underground geology consists of highly fractured carbonate rock and karst systems. Water down here travels fast through our open subterranean cracks and bedding plains. A heavy continuous industrial draw either site acts like a vacuum, accelerating the drainage of water right out of the rock fractures directly beneath my property. And 3, My home sits upridge. My home sits up the ridge at a higher physical elevation than your low-lying development sites. If the aquifer gets overpumped down below, the water table drops across the entire connected system. Because my well is higher up the hill, a dropping water table will fall below my well pump's reach long before it ever impacts the lower-lying industrial operations near you. If your board approves ordinances or developments that dry out, contaminate, or ruin my private water supply, this letter stands as formal proof that the township had explicit advance notice of the direct risks to neighboring property owners. I request that this statement be formally read into the minutes or entered into the official record during the public comment period for your upcoming supervisors meeting. Today, the township also received, sorry about that, two further communications. One was from the Western Law Offices. I will not read that one. It was more than 20 plus pages together with attachments and exhibits. But we will place that into the record. And then finally, there was a communication from attorneys Eric Schock and Gregory Davis addressed to Lower Mount Bethel Township Board of Supervisors
Thank you.
And again, that's a more than 35-page comment letter, and I won't read that into the record, but we'll also make that a part of the record tonight.
Can I real quick, just sorry to interrupt you. Whoever has a black Hyundai Elantra, MHS 6273, you are blocking our fire engine in. We cannot get out. Black Hyundai Elantra, license plate MHS 6273. Please move your car. Thank you.
And one final matter. And finally, we did
If you
receive
just
a third
came in and wanted to
communication
speak,
today.
you should go to the sign-in sheet if you wanted
Trying to run a hearing.
You haven't
Trying to
told
run a
anyone that
hearing.
they can sign in, so I'm letting everyone who just walked in, you can sign in to
Mayor,
speak if
have
you
your
haven't
seat.
yet.
You're not running the meeting, the solicitor. Thank you.
We did receive one final letter, one final communication from Joe Guest,
Right
which is
Yeah, I know.
dated August
Sign up.
17, 2026. And it's a lengthy 3-page letter with lots of additional communications. And so we'll place that into the record as well.
Turn the mic up. People can't hear.
So the first speaker tonight is, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name. The first speaker scheduled, and again, I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. It is Cosimo Buscemi.
Hi. My name's Cosmo Buscemi. I live on Fairview Avenue, Martins Creek. Can you hear me now?
It's just a recording.
I don't know.
Should we shut this one off? Should we shut this one off?
Let me shut this off.
I just want to mention the townships that have already turned down the data centers. Just up in Upper Marion Township.
shuffling the mics off.
Places in Pennsylvania that have turned down data centers are Upper Merion Township, Columbia Borough, Hamden Township, Blakely, Montour Township, Lancaster County Township, Anthony Township, Upper Macungie. I want to say that it's not going to be easy to do what we're doing, but nothing worth fighting for is easy. And we're all ready for a fight. Profits and economic development do not trump environmental rights. The Green Amendment, Article 1, Section 7. We the people have the right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of natural, scenic, historic, aesthetic values of the environment. Our supervisors and our politicians are the trustees of this Green Amendment. Can you hear me? All right. I'm not starting over. Now, of the Green Amendment, the trustees of the Green Amendment, which is part of our Pennsylvania Constitution, are our politicians and our representatives. And the trustees' obligations are to protect Pennsylvania public natural resources, which are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. As the trustee of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve, maintain, for the benefit of all the people. Just to put in perspective, the United States has over 5,000 data centers already. That's 10 times more than any other country. China only has 500. I just don't want us to be a tool for these greedy oligarchs and let them do whatever they want. I call for a total ban of data centers in Lower Mount Bethel.
The next speaker is John Callahan.
Good evening. My name is John Callahan with Perron Development, and I'm representing the partners in the proposed data center campus. We greatly appreciate the township's thoughtful approach to considering a potential data center, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. We want to reiterate that our goal is to pursue this project the right way and ensure that any data center campus brings significant value to the community while protecting Lower Mount Bethel's rural and agricultural character. Overall, we believe that many of the proposed performance standards in the draft text amendment this evening that you're considering are achievable. Partners in our project who own land in the current industrial zone that would be impacted by the proposed text amendment have submitted limited formal comments in writing about the draft for your consideration. The team appreciates the opportunity to share these comments and is happy to provide more information or color as needed. I also want to briefly discuss our revised proposal and zoning map amendment, which was submitted to the township on Friday in order to provide the scope of the area being considered as you're working your way through your text amendment. I want to be clear that nothing that we have submitted affects the good work that the township is doing to set those thoughtful standards for going forward, and we hope to be able to work collaboratively as this process moves forward. Our revised proposal reflects feedback that we heard from residents and township officials. It significantly reduces the proposed campus footprint and keeps the entire campus south of Martins Creek Belvedere Highway, consolidating it near the existing power plants, which are centered around Depews Ferry Road. Approximately 350 acres of agricultural land at the intersection of Gravel Hill Road and Martins Creek Belvedere Highway has been removed from the project footprint. Instead, we're committed to working with township and county officials to ensure that those currently farmed acres remain in agricultural use. The project would use advanced closed-loop cooling systems that do not draw groundwater or water from the Delaware River for cooling. Any required power-related infrastructure upgrades would be fully funded by the developers, not residents or ratepayers, and the project would incorporate noise mitigation technology, screening, and landscape buffering.
30 seconds.
We believe that this is a more focused, lower impact proposal that responds directly to community concerns while still providing meaningful long-term benefits, including new revenue for the township, the school district, new jobs, local contracting opportunities, private investment, and the community benefit agreement development with the township. We remain committed to getting this right and delivering significant benefits to the community. Our team looks forward to working collaboratively with township officials, residents, and local stakeholders as this process moves forward. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Sandra Newman. And I'm going to ask everybody as they now approach the bench, to approach the podium, to spell your last name for the record.
Last name is N-E-W-M-A-N. First name Sandra. I will be very brief. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for the great work that they did in getting this ordinance to you in an extremely timely fashion. It took them much less time to do that than it took this board to get with what is happening to this community. I would like to see a commitment by the developers to slow down the process, to allow us to update our zoning ordinance in the way that serves this community. And I'd like a commitment from the developers to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lorraine. It appears to be England, and I apologize again if I've mispronounced it.
Hello. I myself am not used to being on this side of the microphone. I've worked in local government. England, like the country.
Can you try and speak into the microphone, please?
Sure.
Is that 2 mics?
Yeah, there's a little fuzzy one on top. Is it supposed to be there? It's so small that when you breathe it in, it goes right into your bloodstream. It causes cancer and other chronic diseases. So I'm hoping that there's something that would not only monitor that, but provide some kind of remediation effort for that particular particulate. I'm also hoping that the amendment would provide some kind of remedy for, as people have mentioned, our groundwater and for our decrease in property values for being near such a center. Any kind of proposed centers in New Jersey have pretty much been run out of the communities that they've been proposed in. So I'm kind of curious why it was entertained and why the concept to even consider working with a developer to bring intentionally this kind of project into our community was entertained from the beginning. I don't know anything about what was put out in the literature about pensions, but I'm hoping that at some point we would get some kind of formal explanation as to what that entails. I'm sure that you have heard from a lot of concerned citizens, and I hope that you can see by the turnout here tonight that we care about our property value, we care about our environmental footprint, and we care about the kind of projects that you're going to bring into our communities. We care about the long-lasting effect, and we care about our resale value should we ever want to retire and leave this community. At least I know I do. Any rateable increase that we would gain from this particular development or project, I would certainly hope that you would set aside a trust so that that can pay for our reduction in property value, should that happen, should the water remediation be necessary, and should we have cancer clusters that are known to pop up. That's all that I have for you, but I do hope that you reconsider and only think about an amendment that would specifically eliminate data centers from coming into our community.
The next speaker is Rob Kucharczyk.
Close. Kaharczyk.
You'll definitely have to spell your last name for the.
Yeah. Rob Kaharczyk, it's Kucharczuk. I represent 7771 Depews Ferry Road. And, good evening, members of the board and supervisors and my fellow neighbors here. My name's Rob Kaharczyk, as I mentioned, and I'm a resident at that property. I'm speaking tonight regarding the proposed data center ordinance. While I appreciate the board's efforts to get ahead of Pennsylvania's overwhelming data center expansion by drafting local regulations and the ordinance, it must be aggressively and strictly amended to protect our homes and the massive irreversible impacts of the Lower Mount Bethel Township Technology Center proposal. The developers can revise their footprint or talk about consolidation near the existing power plants all they want, but our hyperscale data center campus simply does not fit LMBT's agricultural identity. We must ensure this ordinance strictly addresses these local realities. First, I want to talk about the water security. Almost every single home in our township relies on well water. These facilities consume millions of gallons of water daily for cooling, which threatens to draw down our local aquifers, and despite the wells our families and historic generational farms rely on. Furthermore, any runoff or heavy consumption threatens the Delaware River, which millions of people downstream depend on. Second, our infrastructure and countryside plans to run gigawatts of power lines through a rural landscape, which will permanently scar our scenic byway, disrupt the flight paths of our local wildlife, including many of our nesting bald eagles, and tank our residential property values. Finally, our quiet way of life. We cannot allow industrial cooling fans to create a continuous low-frequency hum that shatters the peace of our countryside, nor can we allow massive diesel backup generators to pollute our clean air during routine testing. Please do not rush an ordinance that leaves loopholes for developers. I urge this board mandates 100% closed-loop liquid cooling to protect our wells, ban heavy overhead transmission lines through our agricultural zones, enforce strict decibel limits on industrial noise, and explicitly protect our native wildlife habitats. Finally, I want to say this. There are no longitudinal studies about any of these plants. None. We can't forecast what's going to happen. We can't forecast health effects. We can't forecast any environmental effects. Yet we plan to move forward with something along these lines. So please consider strictly amending the ordinance. Please consider all of these rural effects that could happen due to a data center. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
The next speaker is Matthew Taylor.
Can you hear me? Yeah. All right, so my name is Matthew Taylor. I've lived here in Lower Mount Bethel my entire life. I'm 22 years old. What I'd like to say is, while the ordinance is, a good first step, there's 2 points I want to bring up. One, so you might be thinking oh, it's just one data center, it's just one data center complex. We're just approving one, right? Well, as many people have stated and know very well, this thing's going to, decrease the property values of all the homes and all the properties surrounding this thing. And no one's going to want to live next to it. So they're going to have no one to sell it to. And the only people that are going to want to buy them are the developers, and they're just going to build more data centers around it because no one else is going to buy these properties. And another point I'd like to make is that, yeah, we have the power plant in our community, and yeah, it's an eyesore, but at least it provides a purpose to our community. At least it provides a function. What's a data center going to do for the 3,000 residents of Lower Mount Bethel Township? Nothing. It's just going to contribute to mass surveillance, and it's going to, I don't know. Nothing good for Lower Mount Bethel Township. And it's just going to put more money in the pockets of the tech billionaires who are pushing these things. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
The next speaker is Denise Wester.
Good evening. Can everybody back there hear me without a mic, or do I need a mic? Okay, I'll use the mic. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Denise Wester. I am an attorney in the Lehigh Valley, and I represent the homeowners that sit off Depews Ferry Road, right across from the entrance to the power plants. It's a small strip. There's about 18 houses there, and we're kind of forgotten about all the time. But this data center is going to come right up to the Mauser Trailways, which is the only buffer between our homes and the data center. We already have the power plant and the incredible noise from the power plant right next to us already. With that being said, we're focusing on the ordinance tonight, but those are the people I'm representing tonight. And I have to disclose, I have a personal interest. My family has 2 homes on that road. I've grown up here in Lower Mount Bethel Township as a second home, but I've grown up on the river. So I'm well aware of everything this beautiful township provides, and every time I leave the Lehigh Valley and come up here, I thank God for it every time. So anyhow, as to the ordinance, you've heard all the concerns about the noise, the health. I totally agree 100% with what everyone has said. But there's a few things that the ordinance is not addressing. First of all, it's not restrictive enough. There are so many issues that have to be more refined in that ordinance. Otherwise, we are going to have so many loopholes that Talon and its developers and any successors can jump through. So I know you want to get this ordinance passed, but you need to do it the right way, because amendments may not come later, number one. Number two, no one has mentioned about Upper Mount Bethel Township, 12 miles up the road. We can't be in a vacuum here in Lower Mount Bethel and have an ordinance that doesn't even consider what's going on 12 miles up the road. We need an ordinance that requires joint studies that make sure that the power plant, and no one's talked about, somebody just was thankful for the power plant. I personally am not, because it has expanded so much and the noise level is out of control. But the power plant will be expanding again for both of these data centers. And I don't think most people realize that. So you need studies on the power plant expansion. You need studies on the Lower Mount Bethel Township data center. You need joint studies with the Upper Mount Bethel Township data center to see what the overall impact is to this entire community. We can't ignore what is going on around us and think, oh, it only impacts what we do here. That is not true. It's simply not true.
30 seconds.
Okay. Closed loop. Everybody's talking about closed loop. I know you can't require a specific manufacturer, but even more restrictive is isotope technology for the cooling system. If we want to protect our water and limit our noise, we need to look into a more restrictive system, better than even closed loop. So I suggest that the Board of Supervisors do that. I think we need to update the ordinance. I gave you the memo this morning, 21 pages of recommended changes to the ordinance. And I think we need to update the ordinance, though, particularly with the closed loop, to make it more of an ICO type of cooling system. Do I have any time left?
No.
Shoot. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Raymond DeLeon.
Spell your last name. Dilione. I live on the Belvedere Martins Creek Highway. Spoke to you before. Had the privilege of being right across the street from where this is going to happen. I'm going to direct some comments to Mr. Fisher, if you would. Mr. Fisher? Last meeting that was held we were told that at this meeting we were going to be able to ask questions about the ordinance and get answers. And it appears today that we're not getting any answers whatsoever. I agree with the last speaker. There's an awful lot of gray area, a lot of loopholes, that if this ordinance gets passed, we don't know, according to you last month, whether they are major changes or whether they're minor changes. You told us that major changes would have to be resubmitted to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. Minor changes would be able to go through. Is that correct?
As I said before, we're not going to go through a question and answer. However, I did state that, just so.
Okay, so here I am as a resident of the township, and I'm banking on what you're saying, okay? And now we got an ordinance that if this thing gets passed tonight is like Swiss cheese, okay? A couple of them right here. There is absolutely no provision in here that our local energy bills are not going to be increased because of the demand that's put on. News items galore about how towns are being swamped with increased residential rates. As mentioned several times, the water situation with wells, you need to include as a mandatory study of the surrounding properties to determine how they're going to be affected by it. That's an easy loophole for anybody to get around. Ingress, egress into this place. This is a particular bugaboo of mine. I've lived across the street from a quarry for 17 years. I've had to call the Department of Environmental Protection to get them to clean up the debris that gets carried out on the road. I don't think that there's any realistic expectation that that's going to be any less. And my personal opinion is that they chose that lot across the street from my house because there's already a driveway and ingress. Very good. There's already ingress in there. Big trucks going down the road. I have a study here that says that the decibel rating is 85 from a dead start to accelerating on a flat grade until they get up to speed. Ordinance says 45 decibels. How are we going to deal with that? That's right in my yard, okay? I really am upset that there isn't the opportunity to be able to talk about the inconsistencies in here. And I think provision needs to be made.
The next speaker is Dominic Buscemi.
I'm Dominic Buscemi with the Rapid Response Team. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm here to tell you that what you're up against is the Pennsylvania State Constitution, okay? There's a green amendment in the Pennsylvania State Constitution that says the environment comes above everything else. Even if somebody has private property, they can't put something like that. Even if someone has private property, they can't put something that's going to destroy your environment. And all we've heard tonight was cases about how the environment is being destroyed. So the trustees, and this is something that you want to, or the supervisors, you need to think about this. You could be held personally liable for damages if you vote to allow something that absolutely is forbidden by the Pennsylvania State Constitution. Okay, and I think the talk about variances and zoning, that's moot. that's moot because it's not allowed. Why do we got to change anything? It's legally, by constitution, not allowed. So if we want to make zoning for future things to protect ourselves, that's a nice exercise, but it shouldn't apply to this because this can't be. Okay, and one thing I want to say is that, I don't know how many of you know it, but this is one of the things that really grinds me. They're using our pension funds to fund these things. Your pension, your 401k, all your retirement, and part of your taxes are being used to fund the stuff that they're trying to put into our communities to make our lives unlivable. Okay, just so you know that. Next time you talk to your union rep or somebody does your finances, ask them if they're invested in data centers, and they are. And the last thing I'll say is, we made up a newsletter. I don't know if everybody got it. We're going to leave some copies in the back. But there's QR codes here. You can scan it. There's a pre-populated email for your representative. There's an address code. You can just click on that, find their address, and send it. That I would suggest everyone do that. It's pretty easy. Okay? And we also have, I don't know if she's still here, Maya, the woman, Maya Rosa. Yeah, that's her picture on the newsletter. I'd advise you, there's a QR code at the bottom. That goes to her video. If you're feeling discouraged, I suggest you go watch her video because it's going to give you some motivation and some confidence. Thank you. That's it for me.
And for the record, Mr. Buscemi spells his last name Buscemi.
Thank you.
Sure. I've been doing very good with names, but I apologize in advance. This is a very difficult name to read from the handwriting, and I'm not being critical of that person. But it appears to be Joanne, and that's where it kind of stops. From Hillendale.
It's Joanne Walls. I wasn't prepared to say anything. And I'm not related to Michael Walls, if anybody wants to know. W-A-L-Z. Thank you for your time here. I am from Hillendale. I thought I was. Closer? Okay. From Hillendale. There's 50 plus homes back in Hillendale. The majority are on one well system. So if you take out our well system, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Are you going to truck in Palmieri's water every day? Are we going to go up and fill our jugs? What's going to happen? I don't know. I'm in agreement with a lot of people. We love our nature. We love our deer in the backyard, the birds, everything. And the other comment I have is I have tinnitus. Is this loud noise what's that going to affect me, make me crazy, or what? What time do I have left? I forgot to ask. Do you have a copy of the proposed ordinance? I have not seen it. Did you say where it was? It's online?
It's online.
Okay. How much time do I have?
2 minutes and 7 seconds.
I'm giving my time over.
No, we're not going to back and
You
forth.
can't give
about
it
I
to
can't
me.
give over?
No, you can't give it to me. You can give up, but you can't give it to me. You can give up your time and they'll move on to the next person.
Well, then we move on to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Melanie Deal.
Good evening. It's Thiel. I agree with everything that everyone else has said here tonight so far. I've had some of my neighbors come up and speak. So I'll skip some of what I was going to say because it's just redundant. My questions are with the ordinance, and I read it over a few times. To me, it's kind of confusing. There are a lot of loopholes in it. There's a lot of holes in it. I'm not that familiar with Pennsylvania policies and procedures and laws, but I'm very familiar with New Jersey. Even though we've lived in Lower Mount Bethel for 31 years, I work in New Jersey and I'm involved in Warren County politics as an appointed committee member on several committees because of my employment, my career in New Jersey. But that's besides the point. We're talking about Lower Mount Bethel. My questions are, who and how is the noise level going to be monitored? How often will it be monitored? Will our wells be monitored at our homes on a semi-annual or annual basis without us having to pay for it? And will the results be truthful? Or will they be sided with the data center? The walking trail by our house is amazing. It gets used constantly. We live right across the street from it. We see bicyclists on it. We see families walking. What's going to happen to that? Is it still going to be usable when you get down to like Depews Fair? The trucks, the noise, all of that. We moved here for a laid-back lifestyle. If we wanted development like this, we would have moved to Forks Township or Nazareth. It's not what we wanted. Do you see what's happening by Route 33? And they're building more, and then there's one across the street sitting empty. That's what's going to happen here if you let this go. And I don't want to see it happen.
The next speaker is Donald Dow, I can't tell the last, M.A. Dow, if you would please.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
My last name is spelled capital D-A-L, capital M-A-S-O. There's a space between the L and the capital M, and you can call me Don, for the record. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really proud of my township, which is not for sale. And I want you guys to make us even prouder. I have a concrete suggestion. Talk about loopholes and cheese hole. Who said that the noise standard, the industry-wide noise standard, is 45 or 50 decibels? This stuff changes every day. It's changed right now all over the country. My concrete suggestion is not a whim or a joke. I say no decibels at the property line. Put that into your ordinance. They'll say, we can't do it. And we say, yes, you can. It's not acoustical science, which has come a long way since I first started paying attention as a professional musician in New York City. It's common sense. How do you make it noiseless? You keep it all inside. Now, if they say we can't do that, and we have rights to use our property properly as we see fit. We have rights, and we say, no, human rights come before corporate rights. And you know what? And you know what? I look forward to paying a really good lawyer or two lots and lots of money to fight on our behalf. And then he'll be on our side too, and that's NASA, because I assure you, the lawyers are speaking for the corporate powers, are doing what they are told to do, that is, help the corporations get away with as much as possible. You know what will happen about our ordinance? We'll wind up in court. I'm looking forward to that too. We will let a judge decide. Stand up. I'm not going to be scurrilous and say it's like the Germany invading Poland, but we have got to stand together, and we're relying on you guys. And one more word about non-disclosure agreements. I hope we've heard the last of them. Everybody knows what they are. Somebody comes and says, listen, I'm only going to tell you about this. It affects other people, but they're not important. So I want you to sign this paper, and you promise not to discuss it or any future business of ours. Now, if somebody is given a piece of paper here like that, what I suggest you do is talk to your lawyer. But what I would do, I'm not recommending this, I suggest that you take the paper, fold it, hand it back politely to the person who gave it to you, and tell them to put it where the moon doesn't shine.
The next speaker is Todd Rarick.
Well, I've spoken before about my opinions on the data center, so I'm going to try to stick by the guidelines of the meeting and just stick with the zoning ordinance. And again, there are loopholes, and I applaud Pat and planning for coming up with an ordinance in such a short time. Is it better to pass a faulty one, to have one on the books, or wait and get it all ironed out? That's not my decision. Hopefully we make the right one. I did look over the notes that LVPC sent back out of our submission. And while I agree with a lot of the changes, if we can do them, some of them I'm not so sure about. They mentioned about not being able to put anything on the end user. Well, the developers have said construction's not moving forward until they have an end user. The person building it and running it is going to be responsible for a lot of these articles like decommissioning. So we do need to know who the end user is because they're going to have to abide by this ordinance. They also mentioned about not being able to require that they tear down the buildings. Maybe we can find a better use. We're a farming community. We don't need acres of big buildings. Tear them down. If they go out of business, tear them down, unless they find something that the township thinks we can use. Over and over again in the ordinance, they mention things like hiring professionals, engineers, do sound studies. But it doesn't say who gets to choose those professionals. You know, it just says they have to be competent and licensed. Well, Mr. Callahan could bring his cousin Vinny and say, he's, you know, oh, this guy's good. It doesn't say anywhere in here who has the final say of determining. And I think that should be with the township. That needs to be clarified in here. It was mentioned earlier about property values, and I don't see anything in here. I had a thought earlier that came up the last meeting about this EIT and the 90-10, where if a farmer's, I love this thing, if a farmer's trying to sell, they get 2 appraisals, and the fund pays for the difference. Have the developers or the data center make a fund. Somebody wants to sell their property, they get 2 appraisals. One with a data center in the community, one without, and they pay the difference when they go to sell. So again, there are a lot of loopholes. I hope we can get something, okay, I hope we can get something passed if that's going to benefit the town. All right, thank you.
The next speaker is Annette Van Rossum.
Hi, my name is Annika Van Rossum, VAN space ROSSUM. And I am here on behalf of Green Amendments for the Generations and the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. And I would like to say that I hope you will put the sign-in sheet back out in case anybody changes their mind and would like to come up and speak. So I think you should put that back out for the public. But in my comment, I am going to start with a simple question, which is exactly how I will end. Will you, the officials of Lower Mount Bethel Township, make explicitly clear in your ordinance you will uphold the constitutional environmental rights of your community and your required duties under Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Green Amendment? And I want to dispel right now, if your municipality is being given legal advice that you are under no separate duty to uphold the Green Amendment, you have been led severely astray. And you are going against well-settled case law, which I will tell you now. And if you have any questions after I'm done, right there is the national expert who wrote the book on the Green Amendment, so you can feel free to ask her and make sure that you get it right if you don't understand this case law that I'm about to read out. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has stated in Delaware Riverkeeper Network, Robinson Township versus Commonwealth, I quote, "The Commonwealth is named trustee, and notably, duties and powers attendant to the trust are not vested exclusively in any single branch of Pennsylvania's government. This includes local government. As a result," another quote, "as a result, the impact on the quality, quantity, and well-being of our natural resources cannot reasonably be assessed on the basis of a statewide average. Protection of environmental values in this respect is a quintessential local issue that must be tailored to local conditions. In PEDF v. Commonwealth, trustee obligations are not vested exclusively in any single branch of Pennsylvania's government, and instead all agencies and entities of the Commonwealth government, both statewide and local, have a fiduciary duty to act toward the corpus with prudence, loyalty, and impartiality. In the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court, in Fife v. Colleran Township Zoning Hearing Board, the Environmental Rights Amendment imposes fiduciary duties on the Commonwealth and all state, county, and local agencies. Also, the fact that other agencies may also have a duty to protect the environment does not negate another entity's duty. In Carnahan v. Slippery Rock Township hearing, the term in Commonwealth as used here encompasses all agencies and entities of the Commonwealth government, both statewide and local. The township, as a local component of our Commonwealth's government, must act in accordance with these duties as trustee of the environment and the public natural resources within its domain. The Environmental Hearing Board has made clear the Green Amendment is an important catch-all, stating in Friends of Lackawanna, thus, an operation may be compliant with all specific regulatory requirements and yet not be permissible due to the unreasonable degradation it will cause. So, should this new and emerging industry that we're hearing lots about, which will likely have chemicals and technologies that you will have not listed in this ordinance, the Green Amendment language is an important catch-all that provides an overall umbrella of protection you desperately need. Case law has made clear that Pennsylvania's Green Amendment imposes obligations on all agencies and entities of the Commonwealth, including Lower Bethel Township. Statutes, regulations, and ordinances do not necessarily satisfy these, and you need to put this in, because if you approve a data center that does not uphold and violates these constitutional environmental rights, you do open yourselves up to litigation of a constitutional violation. These duties and obligations upon you under the Green Amendment apply regardless, and you must place this in this ordinance, and I ask you again, will the officials of Lower Bethel Township make explicitly clear your ordinance you will uphold the constitutional environmental rights of your community and require duties under Article 1, Section 27, and you owe this community that answer, and you owe it to put it in your ordinance. Thank you. And put the sign sheet back.
The next speaker is Georgiana Frostick.
Frostick is easy. F like Frank, R-O-S-T-I-C-K. And I actually don't belong here because I live in Upper Mount Bethel. But I wanted to let everybody here know that our meeting got canceled and is rescheduled for next Friday because too many people showed up. So if you all have time, Friday night at 7 o'clock, we'll be meeting here for Upper Mount Bethel. And I just want to make, as a person whose career was 35 years in technology, and I worked for some of the largest technology companies at the time, including when I retired, I was with Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I have been in more than 1,000 different data centers. And I can tell you that code can be written, building code, in a way that requires a data center to provide its own power. And it's been done in many data centers across the country. And the water issue is as big for me as it is for everybody else. I don't want my well to dry up. I live here for the same reasons you folks all live in Lower Mount Bethel, because it's rural, because I have livestock, because I love the rural atmosphere of this community that encompasses Northampton County. So come out Friday for us. I'm here for you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kenneth Brewer.
My last name is B-R-E-W-E-R. Kenneth L. Jr. I'm 77. I lived in this township all my life. I was born and raised in this township. I was on the Board of Supervisors in Lower Mount Bethel for 6 years, back in the early 80s. I just retired from the school board. I was on there for 14 years. And one thing you have to remember, being a representative on the board, you represent all the people of Lower Mount Bethel, not just small interest groups. You represent all the people on the township, and you do what's best for all the people. And Mr. Callahan, I think you gave a nice presentation on to what you're going to do. But some people, with what I've heard here afterwards, didn't really hear him. Just like it, there's a lot of people that don't listen. They don't hear what's going on. They have their own opinion, and they don't care what anybody else says. I don't really need this. They don't care what anybody else says. They have it in their mind they don't want this. And that's where it's at. I just got off the board. I have the board. I have the floor. I just got off the board of the school board. And I'm 77, and it's time for the other. But what we're really looking at it's not for anybody in here. It's for our young kids. That's right. That's what everything is for. AI, what's happening now, I did something today, which I did, 77 years old. First I ever did it. I used the what do they call it? I brought it up on my phone with the wallet, my giant card, they had it on there, so click, they got it off of here. And when I went to pay the bill, I just boop, and it paid. First time in my life I ever did that, but and it's only going to get better. Things are only going. Thank you. And I want to apologize to the board at my last time I was at the board meeting that I got a little bit out of hand, and I'm just apologizing publicly that I shouldn't have gotten out of hand. But thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Matt Hackenberg.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. So, a couple things. First of all, I want to touch back to the Upper Mount Bethel thing. I hope everyone follows that and keeps up with that, because as our illustrious former mayor told us, they are going to pay for infrastructure upgrades. What infrastructure upgrades means they're going to take your home with eminent domains. They can build new transmission lines. Because there is not enough capacity, there's not enough capacity in that Portland line to power a 2 gigawatt data center. So if they put that in Upper Mount Bethel, they'll be running new transmission lines through our town. Hope everyone understands that. Second of all, as far as the ordinance goes, I think Planning Commission did a good job with the little time they had. It would be nice if they had more time, but that's the past. So I would like to point out a couple things. I think Todd touched on this earlier. One, that we should know what the tenant's going to be, and two, we want to keep or even make our decommissioning bond stronger. The reason why is you have to understand the compute market. It is insane. It is not connected to reality. And what's going to happen in 5 years from now, people are going to be like, whoa, that was dumb. And it's the same thing as the housing market in 2008. Right now, let me explain this to you. There are two main companies that consume compute. It's Anthropic and OpenAI. Now, they buy their compute from primarily 3 companies, right? Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Now, these 2 companies don't make money. They are about like 10x in the hole, right? For how much revenue they earn versus how much they spend on compute. That means they need to grow their revenue at least 10 times to be able to break even. But instead, they depend on investment, primarily from 3 companies. Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. So what we see right now is a big circle thing where we have money going from Microsoft, Amazon, and Google to OpenAI and Anthropic so they can buy compute from Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, creating demand for more compute. So this compute is artificial, it's not real, it is insane, but it's driven by hype and speculation. So, when you guys are thinking about this, don't think, well, we're going to get all this revenue in so many years. Don't guarantee that. We don't know. We have no idea. The technology might change. These are legacy data centers.
You have 30 seconds.
Roger that, sir. Thank you. These are legacy data centers. We don't know how things will change in 5 to 10 years. These might be obsolete, unnecessary. Elon Musk is already talking about putting these in space. When they have free electricity and unlimited cooling in orbit, how is this little building in Lower Mount Bethel going to compete? Big building. I'm sorry, a very large building in Lower Mount Bethel going to compete. It's not, and it's going to be wasted. So don't expect the revenue from it, and make sure you know the buyer, you know the tenant, and make sure you have a good decommissioning bond. Thank you. Have a good night.
The next speaker is Kevin Swanson.
Hi, my name is Kevin Swanson, S-W-A-N-S-O-N. A lot of the things I wanted to say tonight have been covered. Property values, water, noise, pollution, the environment. But I did hear a lot of people mention that there's a lot of loopholes in the plan we came up with, a lot of gray area. I would just like to make sure that our board has talked to towns that fought and lost. Why did they lose? Why do they think they lost? Get some insight on the losing end of it, not just what you're going to do and hope that it works. Find out why they lost. And again, with the property values, I live pretty close, about 2 miles away, and it bugs me a lot. My house is paid for, and if it all of a sudden you tanks because there's a data center down the street, that's not good. But yeah, just talk to the people that lost. Find out why. Maybe you'll find out and make a better plan. That's all.
Next speaker is Ron Engel.
Good to see you. Good evening, gentlemen. Since someone pointed out, they canceled the meeting. There were too many people in the room, and we have a wonderful fire chief here who took one look and said, can't have the meeting. I don't really have a position about data centers, but I have a friend in Mount Bethel who truly is an expert. I spent quite a bit of time with him. He can answer any question you would have had here tonight, quite frankly. But I hear people say about land values. I'll give you an example. Pine Tree Lane here in Upper Mount Bethel adjoins the property for the data. Pine Tree Lane here in Mount Bethel joins the data center. House was listed for $349,000. After 3 days on the market, they had 4 offers over that asking price. So I got to wonder about this real estate. And they talk about this water, that their wells will go dry. What Upper Mount Bethel has done, quite frankly, is they have negotiated the water will all come in by tractor trailer, and there will be no water out of the ground. Solves the problem. You could do that too. You know? No? You don't want to hear this, do you? That's what I love. When people, it almost reminds me of the old kamikaze pilot. People get in there and they weld the hatch shut. They could give a damn. They're going to go down the stack of the battleship. But there's a lot of stuff here that was said, which, quite frankly, isn't at all correct. But that's not why I'm here. I could correct many of these things, but they don't want to hear it. That's why they don't like me, people. I tell them what they don't want to hear. What I'm here about is 90-10. Well, they didn't steal any of your land, so you wouldn't know. You know, can you at least get them to settle down? I do have the floor.
You do have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The long and short of it is, when you passed, and this board didn't do it, when 90-10 was passed, this was the beginning of many of these problems we're seeing today. And the last time I asked, was there any farmers in the room who still were farming in Lower Mount Bethel? And one lady on the end did raise her hand, quite frankly, and she was still a farmer. The farmer of today is not the farmer of years past. He relies on land and equipment. The days of the dairy herds are gone. I have a herd of 30-some beef cows, and that's all you're going to see much around here anymore. But they're grain farmers. So when you take away that 90-10, what you're doing is, and it's so sad, it really is sad, the average farmer today struggles. If you
30
believe,
seconds.
yeah, thank you. If you believe the average farmer today doesn't struggle, start to talk to some of them. The long and short of it, whether it's fertilizer coming from Europe that they're paying 10 times more than it should be. So when you take 90-10, when that farmer goes to the bank to take a loan out for seed, for a tractor, they appraise his property. You know this, Mr. Mauser, correct? They appraise his property, and it's much lower than the real value because you stole 90% of his land.
Your time is up.
Is it? Oh, I thought you were going to offer me more business. Don't you love me?
The next speaker will be...
They don't love me. I'm sorry. I'm going to go home. They don't love me.
The next speaker will be Bridget Foles.
Here, buddy. I got a granddaughter.
Yeah, honey. 90-10. They take it to your land, honey? No, they take
Buddy,
it to yours.
you know what? No.
Hi, so my last name is actually Foltz, Folts. Hello, my name is Bridget Foltz, and I am here from Belvedere, New Jersey. I am here today with a few concerns regarding the proposed data center. Even though I do not live in Mount Bethel, this proposed data center affects all of us in the immediate area in a multitude of negative ways. As I read more and more reports of the negative effects of data centers, I can't help but draw the connection to coal mines. Companies come into small towns throughout Pennsylvania and Appalachia, and they took all they could from the communities. When the natural resources ran out, so did the companies. Towns across the regions are still paying the price for the coal industry's boom with their drinking water, their land, and their health. When this AI financial bubble inevitably bursts, who is going to be responsible for our land, our health, our livestock, our water? It has been proven across Appalachian history that these companies make their money and leave. It is up to us to prevent history from repeating itself with this new industry that we know virtually nothing positive about. We know the long-term effects of mining now, over a century after its initial boom. When our children look back in the future, what will they say? We need to be sure this ordinance protects us by providing all answers and relevant information to benefit the people. What happens if Talon goes bankrupt? What happens if the water sources run low, like they did in Monterey Park, California, when we have no clean drinking water? When people are having difficulty breathing during construction like they did in Canton, Mississippi? Who is responsible then? We need to pass an ordinance on our terms because we cannot leave our health, our futures, and our resources in the hands of a corporate entity with no skin in the game. Due to these circumstances and unanswered questions, which clearly, by tonight, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and there's a lot of relative youth in this industry with very grave consequences that we have seen nationwide thus far, very, very, very soon into this data center boom. Nothing short of a total ban would suffice. Thank you.
Next speaker is Nicole Chiappa.
It's Chiappa, Chiappa. So I'm actually from Rosetto, but as Bridget mentioned, it does affect every immediate town nearby. So I hold a little bit of a perspective. I am an environmental scientist, more specifically a conservation biologist. I'm pretty conservative though, okay? So when I heard about this coming in, I just felt the need to kind of come in and speak to you guys. I'm not coming in hot and crazy, but I'm feeling hot and crazy. I am from Rosetto after all. Listen, this is a massive industrial infrastructure project. I mean, we've seen them in other places. There is not enough evidence behind the possible detrimental effects from these. We do not have the time behind us. Like Bridget mentioned, the coal mines effects have it took a century to figure out what was going on there. This is so new to us. So from an environmental standpoint, the sheer scale of impervious surfaces will drastically alter the local hydrology of the area. We already have those issues over here. We have no place for the water to go. And if you're putting, it's up to my understanding that we've now gone from 754 acres to 500 something.
No, 2 different data centers.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's 2 different data centers. Fantastic. Okay. Guys, what are we doing? Like, literally, what are we doing? Okay. All right. So the severe storm runoff risks, which is already a threat to our area, the soil erosion and the potential contamination of the nearby watersheds feeding into the Delaware River. The power plants alone are causing warming waters that are detrimental to those areas. So entire ecosystems are being affected by those warming waters alone, not to mention all of the area that you're taking away for those ecosystems that are already in place. A 480 megawatt substation brings immense energy demands. Guys, if you don't think that there's a correlation of the recent increases in American water and the infrastructure expansion to this, you're lying to yourself. Not to mention the perverse subsidies that the government is going to give them to run this, because as that gentleman just mentioned, it's a cycle. So by signing an MOU to settle a legal validity challenge, this board is effectively cutting the corners. I'm asking you to please stand firm against these legal pressures that you guys are facing. I realize that this is not easy, okay? Do not sign away your township's environmental integrity and demand a full, transparent environmental review by an unbiased science team, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Our next speaker is Shane Savant.
Hello, good afternoon. Oh, is it not working? Is it this one? Hello? Hello? Oh, I have to turn it on. Powerhouse.
There you go.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am a resident of Upper Mount Bethel, and I've spoken quite a few times at our township meetings in regards to the data center projects. I live in Stone Church, which is almost exactly on the dividing line between Upper and Lower. Okay, so I would like to just, because I've never addressed this board before, I'm aware of the industrial zoning, okay? I'm not here to debate that, all right? Any industrial zoning that's pre-existing, and any developer that comes in that can work within the guidelines of that pre-existing, those ordinances and parameters, fine. But from what I understand, Lower Mount Bethel is attempting to flip agricultural land into industrial land, okay? So that's hugely problematic. I moved to this area about 13 years ago for its natural, beautiful, rural, unspoiled landscape, right? Only now to find out that I'm going to literally live in the exact center between one hellscape and another. One thing very important to understand, and I have noticed there's a lot of naivety, complacency, apathy, whichever word you choose to name it. People don't understand there are multiple things being built under the guise of data center. It is a general term, like going to a restaurant. What kind of restaurant, right? It could be, in fact, cloud server, but it could also be robot manufacturing, drone charging stations. You don't believe me? In Missouri right now, they have a drone charging station that is over 1 million square feet. What is that? What is a 1 million square foot drone charging station? What is that? Yeah, think about that. Okay? The other thing is the closed loop cooling system is very falsely represented. A very easy, simple Google search will show you that on average, one single data center uses 5 million gallons of fresh water every day. There is a town in Oregon that just got fined $20.5 million by Amazon for what? Using and poisoning the drinking water. Okay, so hearing that this closed loop system isn't going to consume and contaminate our water is a lie. It is a very easy debunked lie, okay? And the nitricides, the biocides, the corrosive inhibitors are not properly treated, and they're not required to be because the EPA has not yet caught up with this newer technology that you guys, sitting here right now, are voting on.
You have 30 seconds.
And I would like to say in closing, if you are not a data center engineer and you do not understand fully from A to Z how this works, with all due respect, you have absolutely zero qualification to vote in any positive direction on such a thing that affects all of our lives. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joe Guest.
I just want to, hello. Hey. Hey. Hello. Hi. I just want to thank the board for putting together such an amazing group of speakers tonight. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this audience and hear all these talented people who have put so much thought into all of this and the research. I just first wanted to say, and I did email the board so they have on file my statement and suggestions specific to the amendment. But I did want to say that we have made a serious commitment to each other in this community. We have made a serious commitment to each other in this community. No rezoning agricultural land. Okay? Not only have we said that to each other, we spent years and years developing a comprehensive plan that prioritizes agriculture as our top priority, as our number one industry, not any other industry. And this Board of Supervisors, we were all grateful and appreciative to hear that they directly told these developers initially that we would not be rezoning agricultural land. So we have made that commitment to each other. That's key in all of this. And so we're relying on you as our community leaders to stand up and represent the people of Lower Mount Bethel and protect this commitment. This, as so many people have laid out, I don't want to say the same things, but this is an untested, controversial, and high-risk industrial business plan for massive developments that are known to deplete and contaminate water supplies, use unprecedented amounts of water, power, and fossil fuels, and drive up residents' electric bills, damage property values, and emanate constant torturous noise. And these types of facilities have no place in our township. We have an amazing resource of information about artificial intelligence data centers because they're being built everywhere in the country. So we have tons of examples of these horrible things that are happening.
You have 30 seconds.
I haven't read one good thing about any of these data centers. So I have two very specific amendment suggestions here. Noise, amend the noise section of this ordinance to make sure that it says the data center shall not exceed 0 decibels. 0 decibels during the day, 0 decibels at night. That's a simple phrasing. You can change that and you can amend the current proposed ordinance. And the other key thing is let's reference existing ordinances that we have about other large industrial facilities. 27-1531 has language specific to size on terminal warehouses. So use that, please. You have it in writing.
All right, that concludes the public comment portion of the public hearing, and therefore the public hearing can now be closed at this time. I'm going to turn the agenda back over to the chair. Okay. I would like to thank everybody that stood up and talked tonight. I'm sure the entire board heard everybody. I know I did, loud and clear. Okay? And I know personally I did make a commitment to the entire township that I don't want to change any zoning within the township and take away any of the ag land from the township. And I'm going to stick to that word that I put out. From this point forward, though, we're going to move on with this meeting. We have another meeting next Monday. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of discussion next Monday also. I would like to move on to paying the bills. Melissa?
Total bill for $75,718.
Okay, total expenses paid, $75,718.50. Have a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make the motion to pay the bills in the amount of $75,718.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Do we have a second from Christo? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 4-0. Next, we'll move down to public comment. If you have public comment, come on up to the podium and we're going to adhere to the 3 minutes.
Sure, should be short. Yeah, so I would just like to say that, you know, we've got the ordinance. Oh, sorry. Click it on. Click it on. All right. Yeah, no, I think lost in all of this, hopefully, I would recommend that we pass this ordinance. We get this ordinance published, declared, in place. It may not be perfect, but we have the opportunity to amend it later. And having some protection is better than having no protection against, you know, what might ultimately be unavoidable. Hopefully it's not unavoidable, but if it is, at least we'll have some protections based on the ordinance that has been put in front of the committee and reviewed by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. Hopefully we can accommodate any of the changes or address any of the concerns that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission had without requiring a resubmission for a 30-day review. I think that should be avoided at all costs, and we get this thing at least in place and build upon it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I have a motion, we have a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. The meeting is adjourned. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. And we'll see you at the next meeting.